Know your time, bye.
I know, it's
That should count for something.
we should have Christmas
Holiday, a board holiday dinner.
We never go to dinner anymore, ever.
I know, we don't. Yeah, I know.
Really good.
We used to do stuff like that. We don't do that anymore.
I'd like to call the Monday, November 14th meeting of the Hazlet Board of Education to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first item is correspondence. Do we have any this evening?
We do. We have a nice note of thanks from Patty Terrace over at the high school, and she wanted to thank the board for the kind note that was sent when her mother passed away. So we appreciate Patty's thanking us as well.
Okay, thanks. Let's be the point for comments from the public. Don't see any, so we'll move on to our student representative report. Travis?
I'm just going to start with Hazlet High School. The high school is currently participating in its annual food drive to support the Hazlet Food Bank. Principal Janke would like to extend his congratulations to the girls volleyball team who won the district championship last week and participated in the MHSA regional volleyball tournament. The girls swim team has had a successful year and will be participating in the MHSAA state meet this weekend. Two of the members of the girls varsity golf team, Aaron Lawrence and Chelsea Root, have made the all-state girls golf team. All winter sports will be in full swing with practices beginning last week and today. Some Hazlet High School students will be visiting Capital Area Career Center on Wednesday, November 16th. The staff of Hazlet High School will be engaged in a 2-hour professional development activity on Wednesday, November 16th. The focus of the professional development will be response to intervention. The Hazlet High School musical, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, will take place on Thursday, November 17th through Saturday, the 19th, on the middle school. The middle school is currently, like the high school, is currently conducting its annual food drive to support the Hazlet Food Bank. They're collecting canned and boxed food items until Friday, November 18th. According to Principal Pridgeon, this weekend has been a big one in the world of Hazlet robotics. All three teams competed in the Spartan Challenge at Michigan State University, the College of Engineering. He is proud to inform you that all three teams took a first place trophy home in major categories including robot performance, project presentation, and in the overall project category. On the record. Murphy Elementary School has received a new batch of salmon eggs for their aquarium projects. 4th grade students recently completed a week of nature lessons at the Harris Nature Center. 3rd grade students recently visited the state capitol and the Michigan Historical Museum. And Raleigh Elementary School. Raleigh Elementary School recently completed their November pie sale and sold 1,947 pies. Mrs. Wangerman and Mr. Van Remen's classes were the high sellers and will be going to Bravo for lunch on Wednesday.
Nice.
The 5th grade students recently went on a study trip to the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn. The 4th graders of Raleigh started their Walk in the Woods study trip for 2 days in the fall at Lake Lansing North Park and will go back for half a day in the winter and 2 days in the spring. Principal Tigrini would also like me to extend her thanks to the dedicated courtyard parent committee for the beautiful cleanup project of the courtyard this month. And lastly, Wiltshire Early Childhood Center. Wiltshire is currently participating in its annual food drive for the Hazlet Food Bank. That concludes my report.
Terrific, thank you.
Thanks, Travis.
We will move on to the superintendent's report.
Yes, thanks, Chris. I'm pleased to announce that Maggie Thompson has been hired to replace Dory Lako as our 6th and 7th grade language arts teacher. As you recall, Dory resigned a couple weeks ago to take a position with the Mason Public Schools. And then I want to piggyback on what Travis talked about a little bit, the high school musical coming up this weekend. It starts on Thursday evening and runs through Friday evening. There'll be a Saturday matinee and then a Saturday evening performance. And this is something I think a lot of people have been looking forward to for some time because the last time we did the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, it was rave reviews, and so we're expecting big things this weekend. So that concludes my report.
Okay, terrific. On to discussion items, and we have a good one tonight. We have our 2010-11 district audit, and we have Bruce Dunn here. Mayor, there we go. Highlight of the
So excited
year
about
for
an
all
audit,
of us.
Thank you, appreciate the opportunity to be here. Your student rep, Travis, did a very nice job. We got a lot of things going on, and I've done a lot of these board meetings so far this fall, and that's the first time I think anybody said it was good news. We'll go over some things. We had a detailed meeting with the Finance and Facilities Committee back on October 27th, and for those that eventually watch this, and for the board, you already know this, but a lot of districts don't do that. I mean, we had a fairly lengthy meeting, and I went through all the reports in detail, good conversation, good questions, and it's quite a time commitment to get everything. You gotta coordinate, you gotta get the schedules, you gotta do it, people show up, pay attention, and every district isn't set up that way, and everybody has a different model. But as an auditor, we think it's pretty important to have the board spend a little time with us so we can go through it in some detail, and we've been able to do that. I am gonna go over a couple of things, and there's some changes. I don't think we have anything that I call a surprise. You ended up the year very, very close to where you thought you were going to be based on your budget. There was, we'll go over that as well, and where the district is, and a little bit of what's going on in the state. With that, I'm going to ask you to go to the second binder, and we'll go to the independent auditor's report. And that's where we state the financial statements, meaning the district's financial statements. That's on Roman numeral page 4 and 5, are fairly presented. That would be in the third paragraph on Roman numeral page 4. There is an additional paragraph this year on the bottom of Roman numeral page 4, where we make reference to governmental accounting standards board statement number 54. We talked about that a lot. There's some fund balance terminology changes, but the big change is from a consistency standpoint. In years past, athletics would have been included as a separate fund. This year, for the fiscal year 2011 year, athletics has been rolled into the general fund. And so from a consistency standpoint, the reason we emphasize that is if you were to go back and look and wanted to compare some of your general fund expenditures to last year to this year, be truly comparative, you need to go back to last year and add in athletics and add the two of them together, where this year they've been combined. And that was a government accounting standard where they changed the rule on the definition of a special revenue fund. They basically said it had to be self-supporting and the revenue kind of had to be special. Gate receipts and participation fees generally aren't special, and in Michigan, even the largest, most successful sports programs are not self-sustaining. So other than they didn't meet either of the definitions, I think all the districts in Michigan have consolidated that. So that's a little bit of a technical change, probably a bigger deal to us than it is to the districts. Steve and his staff had to consolidate those things, and they did a good job on that. Management discussion analysis is written by the district, and it's got some comparative information on a full accrual basis, and I'd like to go forward to Roman numeral page 14. We've got a couple things going on this past year, and those are some of the changes. One of the things we'll get to the budget to actual variance, you were about 1% on the bottom line of the relation to expenditures. But actually, you're a little bit closer than that, because when we get to your budget to actual variance, it's on the third bullet on page Roman numeral 14. You had budgeted for some bus purchases of about $180,000, and just for lots of reasons, accounting principles don't allow us to record until the transactions have been entirely finalized. The commitment doesn't allow us to record that. So that's going to be fiscal year 11-12. So when you pull out that $180,000, it's in the budget, but it wasn't an expenditure. You're very, very close, and I'm going to warn Steve right now. You're very, very close, less than 1% for a variance. And I'm going to tell the board, don't expect him to be that close to his staff every single year. We still say 1% to 2% is a very reasonable budget because in general, if everybody spends 99% of the budget, 1% variance still gets on $25 million. It's $250,000 variance. So
It's 50 basis.
Right.
There's always room for improvements.
But, so when we get to that area, that's something that's a little bit different. Regular page 2 and 3 are full district-wide financial statements, and the district has a lot of assets, big numbers, and you also have some big numbers on the liability side, which is not new. You have total assets of $56 million, sounds like really big numbers, and it is. It's a pretty big number, but of which $50 million is non-liquid. Likewise, on the liability side, you have non-current liabilities of about $57 million, and net assets, you actually have a deficit and that's been going on for some time. From a cash flow standpoint, you're able to have a level debt millage for your taxes there, and then to the extent you need to borrow, you go ahead and borrow on an annual basis, and that's been a long-term plan for a number of districts similar to you. Page 4, total expenses. This is again full accrual district-wide, all funds combined on a full accrual basis, including depreciation. About $31 million of expenses, $28 million of revenue. One of the things I want to point out here on page 4, you'll see under general revenues, federal sources unrestricted, about $896,000. That's some one-time money. Most of that is ARA stabilization money and some of the EduJob money that we picked up this year. So when you're comparing districts to districts, I know the state loves to make everybody the same, and I sit on the committee and say, none of them are the same. But some elected to use that money and got the cash in, which you did, which we would have recommended. Some elected to put it into next year. So where you are in your bottom line when you're comparing with other districts, you got to kind of decide, did you draw down your EduJob money, which we would have recommended, which you did, or not. But by the same token, it's $896,000 of revenue this year, and it won't be there next year because that's some of it was to supplant some of your state foundation allowance and some of with additional stabilization money. Pages 5 and 6 of the fund level, and you're going to see the numbers here all of a sudden go from $56 million down to about $6 million in that. You have some cash, and some receivables. Some of the cash, though, that $2.4 million in cash, $1 million has been set aside to pay off your short-term borrowing, when you paid that off in August, and then you turn around and borrow again. Your fund balance is a little over $2 million. On a per-student basis, I used your blended count of $26.95. That's about $851 a student. I think that puts in a little different perspective. Doesn't go very far. And that's about 8.8% of general fund expenditures. Your other non-major funds are primarily your school lunch fund and your debt funds and some capital outlay funds. Pages 7 and 8 are your revenues and expenditures in the general fund. They have a surplus of about $376,000, and that's a little bit higher than we will show you on the budget on page, I think it's 33. But keep in mind the budget expected at $180,000 for bus purchases. That's on the revenues of $26 million. The notes haven't changed too much. There are a few technical changes. I'll spend a few minutes to go over those if I could. If I could have you go to page 18, note 1, the end of fund balance, this is the energy statement 54. There's some new terminology, non-expendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. One of the things I'll spend a minute on to talk about is committed fund balance. You didn't have any committed fund balance. The board is the only one that could commit something. One of the things you have to do is be fairly specific. I was at a board meeting a few months ago, and they said, well, we committed everything for the purposes of the district. And I said, well, you really didn't commit anything. I mean, that doesn't quite meet the definition. You got to be rather specific, and the board has to do it. The board has to do it before the end of the fiscal year. So if there's something that you feel strongly about towards the spring and you'd like it to be set aside, that would be one item. The other item you could do is assign, and that's something the management can do. And they can do that after the end of the fiscal year, so that gives you a little bit more flexibility regarding that. The other note I'd like to spend a little time on, you've got a lot of debt, and we talked about that. You have a little over $15 million of debt total, and with your long-term debt and everything else, to borrow from the school up-on loan fund, that's about $61 million, and that note begins on page 23 and carries over to page 25. Then the other note I want to spend a little time on is note 9, your retirement plan. This past year, as you well know, the retirement plan in the state of Michigan changed quite a bit. There for a while there was a 3% withhold, and no 3% withhold. Pension Plus is the new plan. You've got MIP, you got the old plan. You got contributions started at 16.94, then going to 19.41, then 20.66. October 1 went to 24.46. Did I rattle through those quick enough? And next year it's projected to go over 27%. So pretty big numbers and a lot of changes. We've got a suggestion for you to do a spot check on a few things. We didn't have any problems on there, but on page 29, first paragraph, last line, the total cost of the district went from $2.4 million to almost $2.8 million, up about $360,000 this year. and expect it to go up again in 11, 12, and the things I talked about past, I'll say again. You don't set the rates, you don't set the benefits, you're just given a letter from the state that says you're required to pay. And there was a few years ago, we talked about, and I think I told this board that I predicted to go over 20%, and not this board, but a few boards kind of laughed at me, said, I don't think so. Now we're at over 24%, there's some strong projections to go over 27% next year. And if you look, if you go to page 32, the total expenditures are $25.9 million. So now, as a percentage of your general fund budget, pension expense for the district exceeds 10% of your general fund operating expenditures. And not here to say that's good, bad, or different. I just don't think state funding was ever designed to be that large a proportion on that. And it's something you don't control. I think that's something that taxpayers, not to talk about what the benefits, good, bad, or different, it's a big number, and it's going to be a continuing growing number. And I know you've done a very good job battling with that, along with healthcare and some of the other things you have to deal with when you don't have any choices. Page 32, the budget to actual. Mr. Cook and his staff managed to get up within $5,672. I think that's even within a half a basis point. That's pretty close. The expenditure is $360, but if you look under operating, the variance under, if you take out buses, you're right there. 376 less $180,000, you're under $200,000 on a budget variance on a $26 million general fund budget. Really, just a pretty solid job. And I'll tell you, I've been to a few board meetings where the variance was a little more than 0.5%. And it's a tough situation, but it's important that you know where you're at and where you're going to be. And I think one of the things that I'll commend this district on, with Mike and Steve and their staff, not so much what the budget number is. I mean, everybody has different budgeting philosophies, but really trying to keep the board informed of where they think you're going to end up. Because you do this first budget, before you know student enrollment, before you know foundation around, you might not know the pension contribution. There's probably a few other loose ends. You might not have contracts up. You have a chance to adjust. But even when you're in May and June doing your final budget, there's still a lot of unknowns. In this case, you had buses of $180,000. Obviously, if you had been purchasing 7 or 8 buses, it would have been a larger, it would have been anything that you hadn't planned to do, but there's good communication. I say keep that up, because you do a very, very nice job on that. There's some federal compliance reports in here. That's a separate reminder. You got a little over under $2 million. And that's grown a little bit. That's going to go up and down, and this ARA money and the Fed jobs money and stabilization money, it's going up, it's going down, and the rules have been a little bit different. As an auditor, I'm going to be glad to see it go away. Because the rules are unclear, they change in midterm, or if they don't tell you any guidance at all, and they come up 2 years later to tell you what they wish you would have done. So it makes it a little more difficult, and there's some that's some flexible. But the problem has been, and you've done a pretty good job communicating that with the community and your employees, is some of it's like we talked earlier, it's one-time money, it's here and it's gone, and then you're back to, now what do we do when it's gone? It helps for a short period of time, but you don't have any compliance issues, and that's a positive, and that's not an accident. I mean, before I left, there was a newsletter that we get monthly on school districts and things going on, and one of the things we talk about is just the complexity of timekeeping requirements and these things, and changes, and you're working with the ISD on how they can allocate money and maximize it to the district, and sometimes they shift money at the last minute from here to there because it's a better deal for the entire ISD, and it's a good thing to do, and they do a very good job of that. But at the end of the day, somebody has to, keep track of the details, and when you get federal money, there's always strings attached to it. So you do a good job on that. We've got a couple of letters. A couple of things I want to point out. I'm going to go to the governance letter. That's a single-page letter. It goes on, I think, for about 3 pages. And to tell you the truth, that's the good news letter. Okay? That's usually what helps me. If I go to page 4, this isn't every place to fund it. A couple of changes, though, this year. If you go to page 2, we do make reference again. I want to reemphasize this in the first full paragraph under significant accounting findings. About the statement, GSB statement 54, there is that consistency thing that was a little bit different this year. You got some estimates in there for compensated absences, the likes of fixed assets and things of that nature. no difficulties encountered performing the audit. I will tell you this, your staff's a little stretched. I mean, this whole thing about being consolidated and doing work and working with Williamston, they were pretty darn busy people, and yet it didn't affect our audit. They did a good job from that standpoint, so they're to be commended. We talked about no adjustments, and this means these are your numbers. When Steve and his staff and Deb give these to us, we audit them, and there's really no changes. We might make sure they're all in the right format for the new audit report changes, but no adjustments to speak of. No disagreements with management, and really no other audit findings. So it's, you know, you folks get this letter every year, and you get, oh, no changes, good news, in which it's all true. But it's not easy. I mean, you got all these extra changes, you got people busy, you gotta make sure all the adjustments are there, you gotta make sure the budgets, you got the budget transparency thing, you gotta put it on the website, you gotta put all these contracts, and all this stuff has to get posted, you gotta get posted minutes. Yes, RS stabilization, and I probably missed half of the things that were different. I mean, there's a pension, we talked about that, and yet you somehow kinda do all the right things, and we test a lot of stuff that isn't just the numbers. I mean, the cash we got, I mean, we do test cash and some of those things, but there's a lot of these other general law issues we have to at least be aware of and make sure the district's complying with, and you do a nice job on that. That being said, we got a couple of comments. It's on a double-spaced letter. A few minutes on that if I could, and I'll entertain any questions you have. The first is review of your internet usage policy. First off, I want to make it very clear you have an internet usage policy. And I'm certain you have reviewed it, but one of the things we've seen with some of our other districts and clients, and just businesses in general, the use of the internet, it's a pretty amazing thing. I mean, we all use it every day. 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we didn't use it all that much. And how we're going to use it in the next 3 or 4 years, we're going to have people like Travis kind of explaining probably, you know, how to do things. And here, we just think it's a very good business practice to take a pause, take another look at it, re-emphasize it to the people, to the students, to the employees on what the policy is and is not. Because when things go viral, when things are used inappropriately, it doesn't take very long to get on YouTube and be on the national network, and we really don't think that's a good thing generally for our clients. It doesn't mean you can't use the internet. We certainly think it's critical in the field of education, but sometimes we have a term in our office that we use to describe use of technology. Here's what we refer to as the leading edge, which we prefer to be on. And the other term we prefer not to be on is what we refer to as the bleeding edge. And we just want to make sure our clients stay on the leading edge of technology. Pause, and does it make sense? Does it comply with the mission statement of the district? Will it pass the prudent person test? If someone reads about this, does this make sense and understand it? So we just kind of want you to sit, and all our clients just kind of pause. And this is not specific to Hazlet schools. We've tried to put this in with communication with all of our clients, both governments, nonprofits, and for-profits, because they're all dealing with the internet, and it's going pretty darn fast. And I don't know about you, but I have my iShade, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and Twitter, and you got to stay current. I'm not real sure why some days, but you look at them and try to do those things. So that's one of the comments. The other comment we had was on just doing an internal spot check. We talked to Steve, and no his staff, they've either started on this or finished this. Some changes in the pension contributions. I rattled off all these different rates and changes to new employees. And since we've started, again, this is not specific to your district, but with several of our districts, that since we've started telling them they've done a few spot checks, they've called us up and said, well, that's a pretty good idea, you know. I had that person in the mid bucket, and they should have been in the pension plus bucket, or we just want to make sure everybody, you got to pay your fair share. It's a big number, and we just want to make sure everybody pays their fair share, and they end up in the same bucket. We had some things where they hired in and had an employee turnover, and the start dates were incorrect, and they were in the right spot, but they didn't match up with ORS because their start dates didn't match because they were incorrect. So we don't have any issues that we did our spot checks on for testing here. We just think it's time to take a little step on that. So those were a couple of our suggestions. I see that you're working already on your 4 out of 5 plan and your resolutions on that for your additional $100. We're happy to see that, and I continue to work on that. I'd like to tell you that things are going to be rosy and there's going to be lots of extra revenue. I haven't heard anything more about this extra $250 million, what they plan to do with that, or if that's really the number or not. But we're living in some pretty tough times. And you've done what you need to do by balancing your budget. And that's not easy to do. It doesn't always make employees happy, doesn't always make board members happy, doesn't always make parents happy. But at the end of the day, you're in better shape and you have more flexibility by being prudent on what you're gonna do, and you do a lot of things right. And with that, I'll end my comments, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Again, Superintendent Duda, Steve, Deb, your staff, we bother your school lunch people, your pedal people, we bother her, we bother a bunch of people when we're out here. And we're treated with respect, we don't always get that. And Keith and his staff said to make sure I pointed that out tonight and say thank you. And you do a nice job. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Anybody with questions or?
I have a quick one on the internet use policy.
Sure, sure.
And by the way, thank you for coming as always and spending the time with our committees. I want to make sure I understand your comments on our internet usage policy, because I'm not clear if this was a generic statement that you're giving to all districts, if you reviewed our internet use policy specifically and had specific concerns with it, if there were objective parameters on increase of use or cost issues, or just, you know, how, could you address
Sure, absolutely.
that basket of issues?
I wasn't clear, and I'll make myself clear. No, we've addressed, this was not, again, both of these comments were not specific to Hazlet. They're clearly generic from that standpoint. We saw nothing wrong with your internet usage. I personally read your internet usage policy. I saw nothing wrong with your internet usage policy. Not sure exactly how it's communicated. I mean, it's readily available. You can click on your website, go to board, go to policies, drill it out, you can find it. Not sure how many people do that. So I guess part of our comment was more to make sure it's emphasized and people are aware of it versus being critical of it or rewriting the comment. And it's, you know, when you pass those policies, I'm not sure specifically what they have at school, but probably you update your policies and you hire people and you work, and there's a lot of things going on. And I'm not sure if this particular policy had much discussion or not. It may very well have in this particular district. So it wasn't specific here. But what is specific in the district is you use the internet every single day, and we want to make sure that you continue to use it appropriately. And if there are new uses or new plans to how to use the internet or your website or Twitter or whatever, we wanted to make sure that you thought about your existing policy, use some prudent common sense going forward, and make sure everybody was aware of the pros and cons, and that it would continue to be a positive use as it has in the past.
Thank you, Bruce.
Sure.
So, I want to talk about ARA funds, and I guess the first question is there more of a tail left on this? Will we see ARA funds in next year's audit as well, or are we finished?
I believe those are all been spent. And there's another, in addition to ARA funds, I call a brother of ARA, the Strategic Jobs of Education Stabilization Funds. For whatever reason, it was, EduJobs was not considered ARA money, but it was very, very similar, and that's gone next year as well. And I think that was about $315,000 this year. So that will be gone next year as well.
You know, I raise it because I think it's important to understand the challenge of one-time money, $896,000. It came through. We did not increase staff, nor are we decreasing staff when it's done. In other words, it didn't have the effect of you know, because you can't do that with one-time dollars. I just think it's important, and I give credit to Steve and his staff for having found a way to accept those dollars, to be responsible with them, to pass all the tests of the federal government, but not to grow dependent on them. So that, because the hard part's now, they're gone. And now you got a budget with $896,000 fewer dollars. It was great when it was in the wind, you know, the front windshield, but when it's in the rear window, it's harder. And I just, you know, it's one of those, you wonder at this point whether it was a favor or not to have those dollars, you know, made available.
I wanted to clarify, if I could have done a smaller document, your A133 document on page 8, but your stabilization fund for $315,000, I looked at the wrong line, your
Right.
education jobs fund was $581,000, that's for grade 96 for us. But you're right, they were here, they helped, and it's like, I'll tell you the other thing, Mr. Fowler, what's consistent with that is trying to fix long-term ongoing problems with fund balance. It's one-time money, and it can be used for one-time issues, but this was one-time money, and if you're gonna use it to try to fix a long-term issue, that doesn't, it never has worked, and it won't work in the future either.
That actually is the other subject I wanted to, you said we have an 8.8% fund balance, or what we have is 8.8% of our general fund. What is that relative to best practice, relative to other school
Michigan
districts?
School Business Official white paper on what they would recommend would be 15%. And so you're half of that, and the 15% number, that white paper was written, I will say, several years ago. So a couple of things that vary in my mind a little bit on fund balance is your fund balance right now is not enough to support your cash flow. You borrowed, I think we mentioned, about $1 million. So most auditing firms would tell you at a minimum, you'd like to be in a situation where you don't have to borrow to meet cash flow. The state could change that a little bit if they just didn't, if they would just pay you during the fiscal year, not pay you in July and August at the end of the fiscal year. There's a couple of $1 million that is a receivable, so that's a piece of the puzzle. And then I think I said it was, what, $896 per student or thereabouts. We generally say, to get a little close to that 15 or towards that number should be over $1,000 per student, probably closer to $1,100 per student is how that generally works, something in that range. You're not in the danger zone, but like I say, people talk about putting money in the classroom, and the interest and the cost of financing never gets into the classroom. Some people might say, what do I do with all that fund balance? Well, without fund balance, that we spend some of it on interest expense, and the cost of putting together those documents to borrow is not inexpensive either from that standpoint.
Is there anything else from your committee discussion that's worth sharing again?
We should talk about both of those. I actually wanted us to hear him on these topics, because I think they're important ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Just, all kidding aside, it's remarkable for the accuracy of our forecasting, not the business practices implemented, which is a testament to how well this district is efficient with your staff, Steve, with the administration, with Mike, and building principals, to be able to run a district this precise is staggering. Now, that being said, you made us accustomed to this.
It's a new standard.
But it's just remarkable. You deserve a lot of credit when you can.
Well, I'll say, you hit on something too, the tone from the top of the board, superintendent due to the staff, the building principal. You have to have everybody buy into this thing. I mean, in a decentralized operation, you got high schools, you got middle schools, you got principals. Everybody's not buying in. You get one or two Lone Rangers out there in a district, and before you know it, you've got some real issues. And you need to have people that buy into the total team concept to make this thing work. And it's not a simple process. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of variables, and pulling it all together. Like I say, $5,000, he's real good, but there's a little bit of luck in it within $5,000. And don't hold him to that close. You can hold the superintendent to that. That's his job. But,
I get all the overage.
there you go.
Yeah.
You would, yeah. So, no, that's how it works, and it's not an accident, all the districts don't do it that way.
Well-
And you know how hard it is knowing where you're going. Think about some people that aren't real sure where they're headed.
Right.
They probably never get there.
And I think on that point, the thing we as a board will be continuing to look for is, you said it, our finance department's a little more stressed. We're sharing, Steve, with another district. We're doing it because the state we find ourselves in, where those kinds of efficiencies make some sense, where we benefit from it and Williamston benefits from it. But we've taken a risk in that taking his eye off the ball or stretching too far could have left us a little bit vulnerable here. I'm delighted it hasn't. And again, congratulations to Steve on managing all that. But certainly something, if things began to show up here as red flags, I think we'd have to rethink that decision about whether we were willing to do that.
I suspect with the transparency that we have, with the open communication that he brought to our attention rather quickly.
We know it before.
We would know.
Get the-
Well, this is a clear case where, no surprises, we're all benefiting from no surprises anywhere. And whether it's between us or what we see in the audit or what helps Steve and his staff get from everybody else in the district to do their job, it's no surprises.
And, Rob, you brought up a good point, which we emphasize also is, it is wonderful to have these collaborative agreements with other school districts, but our primary purpose has been and always will be for the Hanson school system. That's why we're here, and our staff, again, has just done extraordinary things.
Bruce, as always, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you all. Pleasure's mine. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. Good luck. Continue the good work. You do a very good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay, I guess we will get to move now to board reports, the Policy and Personnel Committee.
We have met. We had a couple agenda items. We had a discussion regarding a letter from Mr. Jim Bartow, and very happy to have an opportunity to talk a little bit through that, and we'll be talking again, I believe, at our next meeting. Also discuss some options for partnering with some outside groups on revenue opportunities for Hazlet, and we're going to continue to explore those options. And then we also talked about the positions at the middle school and high school, and you heard on one of the positions being filled that the superintendent reported on this evening. That's it.
Terrific, thanks. Finance Committee?
We met on the 27th of October, mostly spent time with Bruce Dunn on the audit, so we kicked the tires pretty well on the audit report and spent most of our time on that. We also talked about the letter from Mr. Bartow and didn't really have a lot of discussion about it, just first time understanding it, and I think we'll take it up as we go forward.
Okay. Items from board members. Lori?
I do. We had the Hingham School Officers Association meeting that was a week ago, and we had Kathy Dewsbury White, who's a curriculum director at the Intermediate School District, was there to speak to us, and her presentation centered around this connection to the arts program through the ISD. And I wanted to let everyone know there is a breakfast. It is key to unlocking creativity in your students' advocacy breakfast. It is at the Wharton Center in the Jackson Lounge on Wednesday, December 7th, 7:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock in the morning. This is a collaboration that is between the MSU Federal Credit Union Institute for Arts and Creativity at the Wharton Center. And if anyone's been in the Wharton Center lately, you see the signs around for the arts and creativity. That's what this is a part of. And also their connection with the Intermediate School District. The person who is giving the talk is Kathy Ryan, who is a Celtic musician and a vocalist, who will be there with, I think it's the Celtic Women's Group that is performing at the Wharton Center, so she will be the speaker. Anyone interested in going, let me know. And then the other things that we talked about, we kind of did just a discussion around the table of the different school districts, where they were as far as their pay for play programming.
And Steve sent out those figures to the intermediate school district, and I think that they're going to pass those out to all the districts, so. We've
The
got,
sheet
it's
that
a,
we
it's
have,
a,
it's our
it's
school
a
organizer.
picture of what everybody's charging in terms of their athletic fees and participation fees in various events.
Actually, just because you said Kathy White, it reminds me that, you know, Kathy came to make the presentation about the ISD early college.
Yeah.
I actually know one of the students who's participating in that, and it makes me think we probably ought to get that back in front of us before too long, because she's delighted with it. But I think
That's great.
it's going, we've got students going there, and you know, I just think it'd be something for us to keep on our radar screen as it goes forward.
Kristen and Mike and Sharon and Bart and Steve was there too at the ISD dinner last week, celebration of public education, which was very nice. And the speaker that night was Jamie Voller. I think we all got a little blurb in our packet that he spoke about that night. But I know that we talked about his talk at the table, and that the next day, Mike at his administrators meeting spoke about it too, and kind of got Mike and I talking. That sort of spurred the idea for a work session coming up in December, and just some of the ideas he raised. And I gather there was an article in the paper, which I didn't see today, Kristen mentioned.
Doug Stites.
But anyway, that was one thing that was on thought about having a work session on December 12th and talking about some of the ideas that I think have been rattling around in our brains based on that event, as well as I think we've got some issues that we're going to need to talk about regarding our organization with this new impending change in our elections, and how some decisions that we'll have to make about how we want to move forward. So those are my thoughts about things to talk about on December 12th that probably lent themselves to a work session and environment. If it looked like we were all going to be here, I would love to do that. And if any of you have any, I don't know how long we would need to discuss those. So if there are other things that you had in mind that, time we're permitting for us to think about talking about, maybe let me know. Does that sound good to everyone, that date, December 12th? Is that what you think that'll work? Perfect, okay.
You're talking about doing it an earlier start then?
So, right, yes. 5:30 is what we usually do dinner at 5:30 and try to get going from there. Okay. Does that look okay for you?
Yep.
Okay, perfect, okay. Any other items from board members, or is that it? Okay, then we have 3 action items tonight. Would anyone like any of them pulled? Nope. Okay, I can entertain a motion regarding them.
I so move.
Okay, so we have, the 3 are approval of the minutes of the October 24th, 2011 regular meeting, approval of the minutes of the October 27 Finance Facilities Committee meeting, and the out-of-state field trip request for the art students to go to Chicago. All in favor of approving those 3 action items, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None, so motion carries. Those 3 action items pass. We'll move on to announcements. So the November 28th meeting, which is our next one, Monday after Thanksgiving, will be here regularly scheduled at 7 o'clock in this room. And then it'll be the December 12th one, the meeting following that, which will be the last one for the calendar year, that we'll do a work session. Okay.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Bev.
Support.
All right, all in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Steve, you want to read these facility plans? We need to get together. Do you want to do it before
Breakfast, something that
the board
it
meeting
would be
next? We
nice
have
to
no-
Do you know, can you just
Personal contacts we know, we're talking about Charlie Adluski, Gunnar Johnson, Derek Johnson, that they get to know those students on a first-hand basis. So it may be 3, 4, go down there for a 5-day period. For a week. Go down there and spend time, go to the school, live with them, have them come up, live with the families here, big families in terms of kids, that can come to our school, get to know kids, find out what it is. We can learn from them, they can learn from us.
So you're working on a week type of a thing, right?
I mean, in terms of initial concept.
Right.
Okay, yeah. It's not a semester, it's not a month-long type of thing, it's more of a short visit.
You also mentioned something, or alluded to a diversity class as far as an elective. Is this,
We
Did I hear that right?
have, and we're coming to the board with a request to have a diversity class. We have enough students, we just scheduled it in terms of put it on the docket for an offering. That a diversity class that would be taught for a semester. And at this point, there are more students than one section, but probably not enough for two. And so as we get things put together and written up, the diversity committee will come, my blessing to the board asking for that to be on the curriculum for Hazlet High School next
is
year.
it too early to ask questions about that class?
For me, it is, yes. I mean, I have not sat down, but if you have input, what you would have ideas that you'd like to see in the class, we would welcome those.
Thank you.
Beth?
I was wondering, we're talking mostly about Charlie's classes. Now, I know the powwow would involve probably other people, but what kind of plans do you have to try to share some of what the information that you've gathered and the visits and so forth with other classes within the school, so that other people have an opportunity if they're interested?
Well, it's something we probably haven't addressed at this point. We've talked to the DIG committee, and they're, I think, aware of some of the things that we've done. But besides the one class that I have, I've kind of explained to all my classes, but I only use one class that we kind of focus on.
Well, it's just beginning, so.
Yeah, it'd be something that we would definitely like to do in the future.
I would see that Charlie could very easily put it in the rest of his classes, in the U.S. history classes,
Yeah.
very easily, by just doing what he's doing there.
And I have done that already with some information.
And to use an activity like the powwow, that would be for the whole school. It wouldn't just be a segment. I think that as a social study department member, of sitting down with Stan Hicks, for example, who teaches the other ninth grade team, maybe there can be some sharing of information, and that we would hope that would happen, so that he would have some of the same information. Maybe more people get involved. So I don't see it just as one classroom. I think it can expand because it's easy to do that, infuse this curriculum into the study of America, because it's about all of us, isn't it? And so that could go in there. But I think as we go through, we wanted to take a step-by-step approach.
Sure.
Let's get one class going, try to expand it, and do that. And provide a number of activities too.
Yeah, I was curious about this goodie package. It sounded like a video profile. What was included? I mean, was it strictly a video, and then it was?
That was just one aspect. What we did is each school, Knapp School and Hazlet High School, we made a video of each student of the class that we selected.
Okay.
And so they kind of give a little background on who they are, what they like to do. Lasts about 25 to 30 seconds, little profile.
On each student.
On each student.
Right.
And the teacher, and then that was just one thing that we sent. In
Okay,
addition to that, then we sent all these other things with it.
And that was a two-way exchange. We didn't just send it to them. They sent
Right.
it. Oh, okay.
We sent it there, and
That
then
was.
they
I
sent
guess
it.
got lost on that one. I was wondering.
Yeah.
So when we got the package from them, that was just for the class,
Right.
or is that something that
That
becomes
was
available?
from them.
Right.
Yeah, that was just on their class that they selected.
Okay.
And then our class, the one class that I have second hour, will view that and see their students talking about who they are and what they like to do.
That sort of becomes part of our inventory of
Right.
dig materials.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
one aspect of it. Right?
Okay.
Is
I
it
don't
only
know.
your
Is it
class
something-
that will be communicating via the computer with the class down in New
Yes.
Mexico? Will that expand at all? I mean, I suppose it would have to be a two-way expansion, but,
Yeah.
or is that,
Well, one of the things that we can expand is the information that they sent. We mentioned in terms of sharing information with Stan Hicks.
That's an easy aspect to do. As far as expanding when we talk back, whether it's video conferencing or whatever, back and forth, it almost has to be, kind of what they have available in terms of technology, and then what we have access to. So I think it'd be difficult. You can do it with a couple classes, but it becomes a little more difficult, I would think, right now.
I think that'd have to be coordinated. For example, they have an 11th grade class that they originally thought, NAPS really thought was going to be the class that they would work with, and thought ours would be 11th grade, and so forth. And so they went back to the 9th grade once they found out that we were going to be 9th grade too. Now, as I think in the future, if there could be some hookups between teachers, it'd be simple enough to say, "Hi, I'm Gunnar Johnson. Hi, Scott McIntyre. You're teaching here. I'm teaching here." We can do some even phone conversations to maybe talk about, do we want to involve our class in that aspect. So I think the vehicle is there to expand. It's how we do that. You also have to know NAPS is not a large school. There's about 70 students right now at NAPS.
Down to 56.
Down to 50. So from that standpoint, they're not, yes, it's not a lot of students compared to, so as Charlie's classes, the second hour class maybe has 28, 29 students in, the class he's dealing with maybe only has 10 to 12 students from NAPS. So there's got to be some sharing back and forth and that too. So.
There are 56 or 50 students 9th through 11th because they don't have a senior class yet.
And I think they were talking at one time of going up to 90 for next year or something.
Next year, 90 students.
As the program expands, is there any thought given to take our high school or another class in our high school having another school?
Yeah, that was.
Being connected with another school?
So having 3 schools interconnected?
Well, or no, just our class with the class in New Mexico, and then maybe one of our other classes with another school in wherever.
Oh, I see what you're saying. At this point, I mean, that's definitely possible.
I suppose anything's possible.
Right.
It's just,
We haven't
you're only
thought-
limited by your ideas.
We haven't
so.
thought about it at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not something that's been right in front of us. What we've been trying to do is get this project off the ground, going, get it successful, getting the information back, and so that kids can talk with kids.
Sure.
Students talking with students back and forth, getting to know each other, and let's see where it goes from there. I think there's great possibilities.
At the conference, you can see the difference where some schools are in their second year of interaction. I mean, the teachers knew each other so well. The students that came knew each other so well. They've been at it for over a year and a half, and they had you could definitely tell there was a difference.
A little bit like Margaret Holchuk's class with the Koreans. They got to know each other.
I mean, we sat down at a table with their 2 students and their teacher and their other representative, and it was like, well, okay, we're here. And so we just started talking back and forth and try to get an idea of what they like and what they do.
And these people talk, many of the teachers from the schools that we were there talk daily. Okay, talk daily to each other. And the students.
Yeah.
Clear this up for me, as far as, you indicated that the school, 50 of 9 through 11, I think, there are 50-some students, and it comes from apparently a wider area than Hazlet, I would assume, from what you're saying. I get a feeling.
The students come from a wider area.
Yeah, the school is a Native American prep school. They recruit students, gifted and talented Native American students from all over the country. They got Sioux Indians there.
So is this school, is it as lacking, sort of, and for lack of a better word here, in diversity because they're all, and I think you're saying NAP, is it Native American Prep School, NAPS, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That go to the NAP school are somewhat lacking in diversity as well because they're all Native Americans?
Yeah.
Just like Hazlet hasn't got a great deal of diversity
Right.
here by the fact of our geography and who lives in our community and who doesn't. But that school is also lacking.
But they've chosen to be a Native American school.
Well, I understand that.
So from that aspect, it's different than our public school.
But on the flip side, it's not just kind of Hazlet-driven or mainstream school-driven. the schools that are in action get access to what has it's like.
Right.
And so at the same time, they're kind of culturally, or they don't have great diversity in terms of being, non-Native Americans.
Right, that's what I'm getting
Right.
at, as far as their school is also searching for a cultural experience away
Exactly.
from the Native
Right.
American.
I mean,
as
that's one of the
opposed to what
benefits
we're
of them
doing,
being involved in the program.
entering into the Native American world.
Right.
Is that, okay.
Yeah.
Is there, just one line, and just for my own information, is there a great deal, for my own lack of, if we're ignorant, is there a great deal of difference between, I think you said somewhere in the area of 20 to 25 different tribes represented in 56 students, which the math of that would be a little over 2 per tribe. Is there a great deal of difference in these tribes as far as their backgrounds and their upbringing and their
yeah.
knowledge coming into this situation?
Yeah, well, each tribe has a different way of religion, of what's respected in the land.
Would you compare it to, say, an Italian and an Irish and an English? I mean, they're all Anglo-Saxon American or type background, but they would all, if you lined them up against the wall, would look similar.
Yeah.
Whereas your tribe would look all very similar, but they'd come from completely different background as opposed to a Dakota and a Sioux or a.
Yep.
Is that, I'm trying to get an analogy is all I'm trying to do. Does
Yeah.
that sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
Well, I'm curious about the numbers of schools. Are the ones that are involved in this Cradle program, there's 16 of them now, are they all just Native American type schools? Or are there different?
There are 16 mainstream schools.
16 mainstream
And then
schools.
16 Native American schools that they're partnered with.
And are all those schools similar in nature? In other words, they're small or
Some are,
selected or?
Some are
and some
like
are big. Some
Rocky
are-
Boy High School, which is a Native American school in Montana. It's about the same size as our school.
Oh, really? Okay. So who decides which schools get paired up? I mean, it must be to have a volunteer or a pool of volunteers from each side to work with.
We had initially, were asked, who would you like what part of the country would you
Oh,
like
I
to be
see.
matched up
Okay.
with? And we kind of chose Alaska, we thought, but at that point, they had talked about not being able to get the hookup and get the school. It was a similar type of school in terms of a lot of tribes coming together.
It was in the Aleutian Islands. They had 19 different tribes that came to one tribal school.
But
okay.
because of technology, not being able to set that up right away and so forth, we weren't able to. Then we thought we were gonna have an Hawaiian school.
Okay.
We were looking forward to.
Kamehameha High School.
Right,
Yeah.
and we were looking forward to that, but I think as they went through, they were able to then match, as they looked at schools and matched up. with,
A waiting list on both sides?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes, there are people that, as this program gets known, we heard that there were many other people in other schools wanting to be involved in it.
It's a-
We have a video that, we're not gonna show tonight, obviously, but I'll bring it over, and if you would like to see it, it's about 15 to 17 minutes. Does a great job of explaining the program. Buffy St. Marie kind of talks about why the program and the kinds of goals that she looks at it too. So it's pretty interesting and so forth.
They're all at the high school level, though?
No,
Oh,
elementary,
oh, oh,
middle
oh.
school, and high school, at all levels.
We're talking about size. I know Kamehameha High School in Hawaii, which is a private school for Native Hawaiians, has upwards of 2,000 students in their high school.
And there's a charter school in New York,
Yep, in New York.
so it's private, public, charter.
Any other questions? Well, Derek, I want to thank you for bringing this program to Hazlet.
Thanks.
We really appreciate it, and it sounds like it's a major undertaking, but it'll be worthwhile. And Charlie and Gunnar, thank you for stepping up to it and accepting Derek's recommendation. It was a good job. Appreciate it. An excellent presentation, too.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next discussion item is our hot lunch program, and I'd like to call on Mike Joseph, who's our Director of Support Services, and Mrs. Aurora Anstadt, who's our Food Service Director. Is that our dinner?
That's really hungry too.
Looks like my dinner.
The nice thing about coming back here is usually it's in the spring, so that when I'm here, I know it's going to get warm outside, so. But what we wanted to do tonight was, as you all know, about midstream this year, our food service director resigned, and so we took the opportunity to reevaluate some things and the direction we were going, and Aurora happened to be on staff, working in our food service department. So we called upon her to come in and fill some big shoes and see what she could do for our food service program. And she has put in many, many hours since then and done a lot of good things, and she continues to move the food service program ahead. So tonight she wants to share with you, and I think you'll begin to see the direction that it's going and some of the things that she has done and some of the things that she has planned for the future. And with the increase in the student population and the demands, not only at the high school, but the middle school and the elementaries, there's a lot of customers out there to satisfy and keep as customers, so that's where we're headed. And I'll turn it over to Aurora now to bring you up to date where we're at.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
I have been working back in November, I think it was late November, I became the interim food service director, and it was a challenge. And it's still a very challenging position, and I'm actually having fun at it. So, but tonight I would like to reacquaint you and familiarize you with our school lunch program, and share with you all the different changes that have occurred in our program since. First and foremost, I would like to state our mission for our food service department. Our goal, Hassett School Food Service Department, our goal is to provide our children school meals of the highest quality in terms of taste and most importantly in terms of nutritional value. As parents, we're always concerned about our children's health and nutrition. And since our kids are here, our kids are in school 5 days out of the 7, I would like to assure parents that our children are receiving very nutritious, highly nutritious meals, and it is available, and it is made available to our kids. This is our typical. This is what we call our Type A meal. This follows a school meal pattern required by the National School Meal Program. In it is comprised of our protein, our meat or meat alternate, and the school meal pattern requires 5 components that we are supposed to provide 5 components to our school children on a daily basis. You have your meat or meat alternate, and then you have your fruit and or vegetable, and your milk and your bread portion. This is served on a daily basis to our elementary, middle school, and high school levels. On the elementary levels, we offer 2 choices on a daily basis, so that makes it really difficult in terms of menu planning, but the kids really enjoy having that they are able to make that choice. And in the high school level, high school and middle school levels, we do provide a variety of choices and items, menu items, to our kids. In the high school level, we do provide our value meals. This is our $2 value meal. It comes with your cheeseburger, which is about pre-cooked at 3.5 ounces of meat with a slice of cheese and your bread portion and your bag of chips, your fruit, and also comes with milk and a free soda, 16 ounces of soda. This is a $2 meal. compared to McDonald's, the kids have always complained saying that, well, our meals are very expensive. Well, this is a McDonald's meal, I forgot the pop, but this is a $2.44 item from McDonald's. I think it's called the American meal. This is their cheeseburger, which is visibly, this portion of meat is a lot less than what we provide on our $2 value meal. Okay? And so there, and I think the one thing that attracts the kids are, the French fries. We do offer French fries in our value meals too. So we have a $3 value meals that includes, with the exception of the potato chips or the bagged chips, it comes with fries and the rest of the items on the meal. But this is our sample meal. There's still a misconception within our community that our school lunch program is only providing government commodity items to our kids, and that these items are of low quality, and there's still a misconception persisting, a stigma that we are serving a mystery meat for the day, and that it is being served by a woman dressed in white with a hairnet. Well, I'm pleased to tell you that things have changed and we're moving forward, and our program is not so. Speaking of government commodities, it would be foolish not to use government commodities in our program. We are receiving commodity items such as fresh produce, apples, oranges, carrot sticks, potatoes that would be very expensive and really costly if you were to order it from a distributor. And we are receiving bulk hamburgers, chicken nuggets, pizzas, hams, turkey roast. High quality food. And the misconception is that since it is a given, it's a given product that the government is giving it to us, that it's a reject from somewhere else. Well, it's not. I'm ordering government commodities that I think would be of the highest quality, and that the kids would be attracted to, and that the kids are happy. We actually did a comparison study on our chicken nuggets. We served chicken nuggets from the government commodities. We served chicken nuggets that we ordered from Gordon Food Service, our major distributor for our other food items. And the kids in the elementary levels actually liked the government commodity chicken nuggets. So, and then we also have Tony's Pizza coming from Commodities, which is a product that is actually well known outside in the community, and it's also being manufactured and produced for Gordon Food Service. The misconception is that we're only carrying government commodities in our program. Well, that is not true, because we have most of our products, most of the menu items that we prepare and serve to our children come from Gordon Food Service. It's a major food distributor in Michigan, and we do compare and contrast, and we do, I utilize both government and GFS products in our school program to make it an excellent program. But with our government commodities, I have come up with innovative and exciting menu items. The kids have been really excited about the home-cooked meals. Our staff makes these meals from scratch. The favorite item right now is the chicken noodle soup, made from scratch, and we also we prepared chicken pot pies from scratch, and cheesy chicken enchiladas and beef enchiladas. So those are things that you would, typically people say, oh, they're serving meatloaf and gravy or pizza. Well, that's not true, because we are serving, our menu items are really exciting and innovative, and we're moving forward in terms of coming up with our menu items. As I said, our participation has gone up. The children are participating in our school lunch program, and it's more so when we do bring in brand name items into our program. Brand name items like Domino's Pizza, Tony's Pizza, Bosco's stuffed crust pizza, and we also have Taco Bell burrito. And for some reason, we live in a logo-conscious society where brand names and logos translate into perceptions of quality, reliability, and dependability. Well, it is true. Kids do, I mean, our numbers go up when we do bring in brand name items, so we are utilizing that. We're using a lot of branding in our program right now, and we're trying out new items, and I've contacted several brokers to bring in new items that other school districts are using in their programs, and I've also contacted local businesses such as Subway and Jet's Pizza. I've heard Jet's Pizza is really excellent pizza, and the kids have been asking, so I've contacted the owner, and we're working out a plan to bring in Jet's Pizza into our lunch program. Our participation in our program has tremendously gone up. Our figures, we have served 1,878 student meals this March of this year, and 1,878 more meals compared to last year's counts. And we have served close to 200 more adult meals last March than we did last year. I went to a workshop 2 weeks ago with other food service directors and managers, and the consensus was that if we set a goal of 70% participation rate from our student population, that would be an ideal goal. Well, I'm proud to tell you that we surpassed that with one of our schools, particularly Wilkshire. Wilkshire, we have 83% of the kids participating in our school lunch program, with an increase of 19% from last year. And Murphy, we are close to that 70% goal. We have 68% participating as of last month, which is up by 18% from last year. So we're slightly going up. I mean, I'm surprised it's going up that fast, because I thought maybe we could set a goal, a really realistic goal of 5% a year, but we've surpassed that. I'm really proud to say that the kids are happy, and the reception to our program is really excellent. So, just because our counts are going up doesn't mean that we stop there and just work with what we have. We're continually working on increasing our lunch counts, our participation rates. Hopefully, with a campaign, we are currently launching several marketing campaigns to market our program, to get the word out that we have changed, and that we have something good to offer to our kids. And we are targeting three main groups in our school district. First and foremost would be our students. We started doing some targeting, we started doing some campaign on the student. We are doing promotional days, such as we do giveaway treats. Like we do Nutty Bar treats as an extra treat to their meal without charging them any, in other schools, they charge a quarter for a treat. But in our school district, we decided that with the volume, we will make up that cost. So we are giving them as a treat at no cost to our kids. And the kids have been really receptive to that, and they can really get excited. They always ask what the special treat is, so we always make sure that it's special and it's a surprise treat. And we also do, we are continually including innovative and exciting menu items into our school menus. I'm all constantly working with brokers. They've been bringing samples to our freezer. I've got stacks of boxes of samples that I'd like to use and serve it to our kids to sample and taste. but we are actually hosting a mini food show in conjunction with Gordon's Food Services sometime in May. And we are inviting focus groups such as student council, our school board, our school administrators, and possibly some groups of parents to come to an evening of feasting, as you might say. They get to sample, and several brokers will come into the school and prepare and serve meals. The only thing that they ask of us, those who are participating, is that they fill out a survey at the end of the meal. So invitations will be on its way, and each one of you will be receiving an invitation to this evening, for that evening. We're also using thematic menu days on our, especially in the elementary programs. We did the dinosaur day, the dino days, where we did everything was shaped in dinosaur shapes. So we did the dino chicken nuggets and the dinosaur pasta, and we had the dinosaur giveaways, like the dinosaur shaped erasers, and the kids love that. And so they're asking, we're, always thinking of what to do. We had the Surf's Up Day where we had the fish-shaped nuggets to get into the Lent. So kids usually don't like fish, but they really got into seeing. They enjoyed the star-shaped fish and the minnows, and our counts did go up with that. And tomorrow is our biggest day yet. We are promoting our Take Me Out to the Ball Game day tomorrow, where we're serving ballpark hot dogs and bullpen burgers and mounds of potatoes and shape up or squeeze play lemon shape ups. And we contacted Lugnuts, because tomorrow is their opening game, or I think it's Wednesday's their opening game, tomorrow. They donated some Lugnuts Pogs that we are giving out to our kids, and for unfortunately we're giving a grand prize giveaway to Ralia and Murphy, and unfortunately we're not doing that to Wilshire because the little kids can't seem to understand why not everybody can get a grand prize item. So our grand prize giveaway is a set of 4 tickets for a family for a ball game, to the Lugnuts game on the 15th, I think. So the kids are aware of that. We sent out a memo, and hopefully we can keep up with the demand tomorrow. So I hope the response is good on that one. We are also using our menus as a communication device and a way of educating our kids. I started using the back page of our menus. This is the front page of our menu for elementary. And on the back page, I started putting some informational articles on the back. Last month's was all about water, the rain in April. So kids can actually have fun reading these articles. And on next month's will be an article on the changes in our milk, our dairy products, the way they're packaged. So kids can be informed on the changes that we are providing them. And lastly, I developed a questionnaire to send out to our student to get some feedback from our students. For some reason, I hear a lot of comments and feedbacks from students when things aren't going well. But when things are going really well, you don't hear from them. So we don't make it to the front page of the Longboat paper. And I've asked, we don't get lambasted by the staff, so I've actually requested that they actually put out something to tell me how things are going. But the editor's response was that, well, the kids aren't complaining, so they don't have anything to say about it. So it's unfortunate. So I decided to develop a questionnaire, and I've developed this with focusing on focus groups. It would be really difficult to send out questionnaires to all the students in our school district. So I started out, I gave out a questionnaire to the student council at the high school.
And they were really happy to see that. They saw that as a really positive movement from the part of the,
Yeah, and I got the questionnaire today, and I will go through them sometime this week. But and it's good. The kids are really responsive, and they actually feel important that they are being that they're being involved in our program, that we want to know what it is that they want from us, and that, and it's really good. It's helpful. Our other target group is our parents. While only occasionally can our parents be classified as customers, it would be foolish to ignore the fact that they have a great impact on and influence on our kids and also our school administration. So we have to take a proactive role in marketing to this group of adults to reduce the complaints and increase acceptance of our program. And one way of doing that is extending an open invitation to our parents to join their kids any day, to join their kids at lunchtime. And all they need to do is call before 9 a.m. in the morning of their visit, so that we can get our projected meal counts for the day. But the extending of an open invitation to our parents is saying that we have nothing to hide and that we are very proud of what we have to offer their kids. So that's one way of reaching out to our parents. Also, another way would be developing a questionnaire to send out to our parents home with their kids. Trying to find out what they think the strengths of our program, areas of improvement, and the number of days that their children participate in our program, and the fact that have they ever tried eating our school meals. So I'm currently developing a questionnaire, and eventually it'll be sent out sometime in May. The third third target group, and I think it's a very important group, would be our staff, our adults, our teachers, our school administrators, our support staff. Kids see these people, these individuals, as role models, and when they see our adults eating hot lunches in our schools, they tend to follow, and they know that the adults are actually enjoying these meals. Maybe we will enjoy these meals. And it is true, because at the community ed, the Meridian High School, our numbers have gone up the last 2 months, because adults have actually started eating and the kids have started eating too. So that's what Greg had told me 2 weeks ago. So they're really happy with our meals. With our increasing number of participation come the demands for efficiency and demands for time and also for accountability. This is when I think it is important to bring in technology into our program. Most school districts now use technology into in their school programs. They either use a debit card system or a credit card system. It really increases efficiency in the program, and accountability is it's great. At the tip of your fingers, you can actually do meal counts and productions, and it helps you with maintaining your order, and also it does nutrient analysis, which is an ongoing thing that is required of our school meals now, and it's really very difficult to do, but the computer system will do that for you, and it will help you with the menu planning. It also helps with revenue and meal reporting, which I think is it takes our staff a lot of paperwork and a lot of time to do that on a daily basis. So if we could bring in technology and have the kids I propose a debit card system where the parents send in an amount on a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis, where the kids know that they can spend this much money, and so they are not using up, there's a misconception that if it's a card that the kids can run up a bill. Well, it's not, because they can only spend whatever their parents are sending to our school district. So eventually, I think the future is in technology, and the use of technology in our school, in our program. And lastly, we are developing a catering program in our lunch program, and we have the capability, we have the staff, we have the equipment to do small groups or large groups of catering. And I think Sharon can attest to that, that we do a good job with catering, and we've done that last year, and we're doing it again for her. And now Patty Lutsky is doing something for her school. So I'd like everybody to know that we do provide catering services. So, are there any questions?
Questions?
Lots
of questions.
Oh, comments and questions up the yin yang. This is really, it's a topic that's really important to high schoolers, and it's a topic that's important to me too. I remember under Elke, I sat on the food service committee, and you have really asked people if they could religiously come to something, and they haven't. So we should maybe take this as a good sign that people really don't have a problem with the food, and that it really is. And yeah, that's definitely it. And I also do have a lot of frustrations at the newspaper. The primary voice of our student body is not willing to talk about good things that are going on in the program when really good things are happening. Really fantastic things. I mean, the diversification of the menu has been fantastic. Every week is a new week, but it's very exciting stuff that's being served. The homemade stuff.
Yes.
I don't know, Andy Rooney said that food made with hands is a very distinct quality to it, and it's something that everybody's really attracted to. I think that's definitely the case. I applaud tremendously everything that the food program has done. This is one student who supports everything that has taken place.
Thank you.
Just to go on record on that. Like I asked Elke, if there are people who do have problems, with the food program or with, I don't know, some people think that the cost is too high. Maybe that's something that we need to really strike home, that it's very affordable, that it's very accessible. That we really, I definitely think that the education of the student body is coming around just by virtue of the fact that the quality of the food is so good. It really is very good.
Our counts have gone up, our revenues have gone up, so it's really exciting to see that happening in our program.
And then one last question. In summertime, we've had these barbecue events and stuff like that, and I know Mr. Otluski cooks, and it's all the kids kind of like this. It's kind of a fun thing. Were you ever considering doing something like that again?
Well, we thought about it. The hamburger patty that they provided for those barbecues were atrocious.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, so I'm checking into that so that we could have a better way of providing good meals. So we are currently short-staffed at the high school, and it is really difficult to transport barbecued items into the lunchroom. So we will consider that at this point, since May's coming up in June, and it's getting really nice outside. So
I remember the hot dogs were fantastic. They really were. So. But thank you very much.
you're welcome. Thanks.
Jeff, do you have a question?
Well, yeah, I can go next.
Thought you might.
All the enthusiasm here. And I'm just curious, is there, I don't believe there is now, but would there be any way of involving kids in the program, either through some kind of a kitchen class or a cooking class, or, you know what I mean? Some way of having the kids actually participate through some learning experience to understand, well, what really goes on in the kitchen?
That's a good point. I think when kids are aware of what goes on behind the serving line, I think they would be more, they could empathize with how, sometimes how we feel about our days, and actually they could actually appreciate what we actually serve on the table, the process that goes through getting that meal prepared for that day. Yes, I would, it would be a good thing or a good idea to...
I don't know how practical it would be, whether it's one of those things that would be more on a voluntary basis, whether it actually could be part of the curriculum for a semester, or...
Actually, since with a problem of short staff, we also considered about doing a co-oping program with our kids. we could actually hire our kids to work in our school program. So we're checking on that too.
We've done that in the past with students.
I knew we had, I just didn't know how successful it was, and since
Sometimes
that's part of
it's
the
successful.
education process. If you get several of them, move them through it, then the feedback internally might be more accurate.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Deb?
one comment, real interesting to see the things that you brought and hear your discussion and enthusiasm about it. And being one of those people who hasn't heard a lot of complaints at home lately, it must be going okay. But I have one of those real particular eaters who for sure doesn't get the set meal. And the one complaint that I have heard over the years fairly regularly is that because she always seems to be on the second lunch, that they run out of a lot of items, and her feeling is that they sell it all at the first lunch. And I just wondered, because it didn't make sense to me that you put things out at
We
the first
actually
lunch and
do
not at the-
project based on past numbers that we served of the same item. Based on the projection, we do pad the count, so we try not to run out of food. There have been occasions where the problem with preparing, some of the food items we prepared during the second half, like the period between the first and second lunch. We've been having problems with our block lunches where there are hardly any kids during first lunch. So we're left out, we've got a whole supply of food left for second lunch, not knowing, we're actually half guessing whether these kids are gonna come in and eat lunch or not. So we've had problems with that, and lately I've just told our staff that if we have leftovers, we have leftovers. So we're actually increasing our counts to make sure that our kids do not have
That's
that
great.
problem.
I also wonder if you wouldn't have more participation, if it was possible to get into the debit idea too, because I think that sometimes kids, it's very easy to either lose or not have their money with them, or
And it makes the
forget
line
or
go
whatever.
fast with the debit card system. It really speeds up the line where you're not dealing with making change.
Oh, it'd be
or-
interesting to see what the cost would be to do something like that.
I've actually checked out the price. If we were just purchasing the software, it could range from $650 on up. And if we were to purchase the whole unit per register, it would be like, it could go up to, it ranges from $2,000 to $4,000 a unit.
And this would be for the, I don't know if they're called à la carte items or whatever, too. So it'd
It's
be-
for everything that
Okay.
we provide in our lunch line. Actually, the nice thing about this computer system is that it actually makes it flags us for our free and reduced lunch. We can tap more into with the eligible kids for our free and reduced lunch, because based on what the computer, because whatever's in the computer, it'll flag the cashier saying, okay, it automatically prints out an application for the student. And it moves the line. The à la carte, some items do qualify, some à la carte items like our cheeseburger, and if a student purchases just an à la carte cheeseburger and a milk, that qualifies for a reimbursable meal, because it does have the 3 components. Out of the 5 components, you're only required to provide 3 components, or the child takes 3 out of the 5. So the computer will automatically do that for you.
Well, one last compliment, and that is in you're being proactive and coming up with a questionnaire. It's very, we find that on the board a lot. If we don't hear anything, it's very easy to say, okay, everything's fine. But it's certainly much healthier, we find, for ourselves to go out and ask people to actually get the information. I really appreciate that you've done that. Thank you.
Scott?
What are the times of the lunch? Just for my own, I know there's a lunch,
They're
B
all,
lunch, but I never know the
oh,
time.
are you talking about the high school?
Yeah, at the high school.
Okay, at the high school, this is very difficult. On Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays.
I didn't
know it was
tricky here, I'm sorry.
It's very difficult, because of the block lunches, we have the
lunch.
seminar
Let's look at
days.
his calendar, so.
Seminar days are Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and the lunch start at 11:15, And then you have, the next lunch it starts at 12:05. And the lunch goes for about a half hour.
This is on Tuesday and Wednesday, you just said,
Tuesdays
right?
and Wednesdays. Monday, Thursday, Friday, first lunch starts at 10:45, second lunch starts at 11:45.
An hour, right, okay. So if a board member were to stop by at one of those hours and just sort of step in for lunch?
Whether it's
Now,
during
no
lunchtime or
promises here.
not,
I'm
can
sure
come back to our
several of
kitchen
these
and-
board members will do that, but no promises, of course. But that would be possible to do
Oh,
that, is
yes,
that correct?
definitely.
Okay,
Yes.
without calling before 9 o'clock, maybe, okay. Number two, was there complaints before, or concerns before, I guess I should say, of some of the temperature of the food at different locations?
At different locations.
I haven't heard you mention.
The problem with temperature is that we do, well, first of all, I have provided our staff training and in-service so that they know what is required and expected of them when we're preparing our meals. They are aware that they have to reach a certain temperature before we serve these menu items, and they are cooked to the maximum amount. I mean, like say our hamburgers have to be cooked to 165 before it's prepared, before it's served. So the problem with satelliting to our elementary schools is that with the conditions of our warmers, the warmers that we transport our food, some of them sometimes die on us in the middle of the run, and in the cold winter, especially cold winter days, our truck is not really equipped. I mean, it's not insulated to keep those transport units warm enough so that
The hamburgers are not quite as hot as they were. I mean, I understood that was a concern before, and I guess I haven't heard you address that, so that I was wondering if, although was a problem, I'm just wondering, does it continue to be a problem?
I don't, not at this point, because we purchased new equipment to replace the old ones, and we're making sure that they are not prepared way before transporting or satelliting them to our schools. So we have not had any problems with that.
Well, I agree with you regarding the staff, if they eat there, and far be it from me to try and coach staff to go in and eat in with the students, or at least get in line with them to do that. But it would seem to me that if there were a staff member of the month or staff member of the week or whatever, that would be able to come in and eat with some fanfare of a la a Mr. Hicks, who's going to be our speaker at commencement, or Mr. Devine, who's is he still here? Not here. Presented with award tonight, that it might be helpful to highlight some of the staff and invite them in for a free lunch, if that would be possible, so that the kids would see what was going on. Maybe they wouldn't want it. I hope that they would consider it a win if they got awarded that rather than
a duty?
A duty or a loss. But at least force them to give it a try. I mean, anybody would try it for free, wouldn't they?
That's right.
For board member of.
Or a board member, yeah, that's right, or a board member.
Mrs. Mateo for her new award.
That's correct, a master. She'd be a master eater.
We would like to have you join us for lunch.
Like I say, no promises here, but I know that there are several board members who would love to give that a try. Okay, I was curious about the temperature one, and I would think also that the homemade soup sounds like a wonderful. I mean, I would think that certainly at the high school level, and maybe the middle school as well, at a soup and salad type of a situation on a regular or a daily basis would be more well received today nutritionally and
we're actually
slim and trim wise.
I'm actually checking into it for the next school year, creating our own brand name for our school. We can start up a substation where we do a soup and sandwich bar that is open.
Yeah, that's I think that's going around to some of the local places at lunchtime. I see that very, very frequently, certainly among the people who are trying to watch their waistlines, and I assume there's some of those in high school. I don't know.
They say
Gavin
high schoolers
should be, I know.
They say high schoolers are more overweight than have been in the past, and I'm sure that's no high schooler who's a big person is ever going to be blind to that, of course.
course.
I'm sure your swimming coach would be very appreciative of you partaking in that.
Well, why don't you come out and run 2 miles with me too every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? And then
No, yeah, but I'm busy.
Okay, guys.
I'd love to, but I'm busy. Whatever day it is, I'm busy.
Since you have daughters too, you know that's not a subject you need to bring up.
No, that's true. But, okay, thank you. That's-
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mike, Aurora, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent
Thank you.
report.
Thank you, very
And
nice.
keep up the good work.
We appreciate her enthusiasm.
You bet. Oh, Lena. Okay, third discussion item, Jeff, to talk on your committee meeting.
All righty. Let's see, a couple Saturdays ago, Saturday, April 4th, the Ingham County Road Commission sponsored a, what they call a charrette at the high school here in the administration building. We had maybe 30-some folks that were here, a number of administrators. I know Tom Leffel and Mike. And let's see, Jamie was here and several others. And myself on the board, there were quite a number of residents, both parents as well as business owners that were there. And the commission sponsored I guess a consultant, actually from Australia, but he's been in this country for quite a while and travels around the country doing this kind of work and helping communities work through some of the problems that they may have with their road designs. And this was particularly aimed at the Hazlitt Road section. We were supposed to stay within the boundaries of the main downtown area up to Cade, I guess it was. But in some of our designs, we came out. Anyway, they broke us down into 4 committees or groups, and we each took a look at some design materials that he presented to us in advance. We looked at a list of what we liked and what we didn't like about the road. There was a number of everybody presented their design. The people from the commission took the design back and combined them into 2 real true options that they thought might be workable for us, and that will be presented on the 15th here in this building from 6 to 7:30 for anybody who really wants to come back to that. Boiled down to really 2 options. One was a median concept with bike lanes, and the other one was emphasized more of the need to have maximizing street parking. Also involves some median, but wider lanes and more traffic, no bike paths, that sort of thing. Some of the things that people highlighted in terms of what they thought were the issues that needed to be addressed. Number 1 was safety. Number 2 was the mixed use of both residential and the commercial area. Number 3 was making it attractive and a pleasant place, both for pedestrians as well as vehicle traffic. There were things that people differed on. There are a number of people who don't like the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit through the section, downtown section, and there are those who do like it. And in fact, there was some discussion of continuing that all the way to Green Road, including the possibility of having a median go all the way from Marsh to Green Road. They have not yet done any drawings, although they provided us with a paper to map out what we thought might be an interesting drawing. But I believe that as a result of the public hearing on the 15th, they'll take all these things into consideration and come up with a proposal, and the commission, I believe at that point, will make some decisions. I really don't know what the timing would be or what all the funding would be on actually accomplishing these things. But there is a lot of concern, both in the community, I think with the road commission, about the adequacy of some of the safety and aesthetic features of Hazlitt Road through our downtown section. So if you have questions, perhaps somebody else over there can answer the questions too, so.
Any questions?
I have one. Jeff, do you know if there's any money allotted to make changes? It's one thing to make a lot of recommendations.
Yeah, I don't know
but
that it's been allotted. I got the sense from the commission that it, within reason, will be made. They have some responsibility to take care of the safety issues that we have, but rather than just come in and impose what they think ought to be done, they're asking for the community's feedback. What do you think is important? What would you like to keep? What would you like to change? One of the items, for example, virtually all of the teams or the groups wanted to make School Street a one-way street headed south. And even though that was the case, it's unlikely that it would occur for a variety of reasons on the policy side, that there's a trend in the business, I guess, to do away with one-way streets because they do cause a lot of unhappiness with the residents and so forth.
Yeah, I bet the residents of School Street love that.
But at the same time, they believe that if we do a good job of managing the traffic and getting rid of some of the problems that make that a bad intersection, that it could go away. So we'll have to see, because I got the sense when I was at the meeting that that's probably what would happen. But I see in the materials that I got back regarding that plan, that they're saying it isn't likely that that would be made into a one-way street. Let's see. Conversion to a one-way street would restrict access to the school, the library, and homes. People south of Hazlet Road would have to use Hazlet Road to reach any of these things. And they believe, the people who analyzed the material that came out of that program, that there's no reason to make it a one-way street. So we'll have to see. I'd encourage you to come to the meeting on the 15th and ask some questions and see what the results might be. I wish there was someone else that had more of the detail. I was just one of many participants putting my 2 cents worth in.
What are the times of that meeting where they can view the plans?
It's from 6 to 7:30 here in the administration building on April 15th, 6 to 7:30.
It's Wednesday, right here.
Right, correct. Tax day.
Was there any discussion about the cause of the accidents that did occur and how that would relate to any changes that people would recommend?
Yeah, well, the consultant or the expert described a number of common nice themes or ways that these come about, and a lot of it has to do with the way we're funneling traffic that's coming through here from 2 lanes coming from the Green Road side at 35, 40 miles an hour down into 2 lanes at 25 miles an hour. So that's part of it. Part of it is the train issue. Part of it is the turning. Those streets are not the easiest sometimes to make a turn onto from Hazlet Road. And they had a number of suggestions on how we could might be able to manage that. From an aesthetic point of view, I don't know if it contributes to this, but it certainly would be a factor, is the number of telephone poles that we have.
But did that
that are right on
contribute
the
to
corner.
any of the 4 accidents?
We
See,
didn't
that-
get into the specifics,
I'm
no, we did not
afraid
get in.
that they'll
right.
correct
No.
on perception, not according to what actually occurred.
Well, each of the accidents had its own circumstances, if you will, and we didn't get into the details of what each one was. But part of it has to do with the pedestrian perception of what they can and can't do in terms of crossing that street. And, for example, we talked about what they call bulb outs, where you take at key intersections and you pull out into the street more of a crosswalk, so that the distance between one side and the other is less. You're more visible to the traffic and those kinds of things, creating a good bike path type of process, or a place for bikes to have their place and be visible would be one of them. Identifying and marking more clearly the crosswalks.
Crosswalks, yeah.
There was some discussion about having and relocating where the crossing guard is, and in fact, I believe they committed to having a second crosswalk, although I'm not sure I mean, that'll have to come out in their final report. And these are all discussion items that we had. There's not much we can do about the railroad tracks. They're there, and they're not gonna go anywhere. One issue was that whole entry into the post office and press school. It's one big expansive driveway, and it's not clearly marked either for pedestrians or cars where they belong at any point in time. And that was one of the things that was pointed out that we could correct.
But none of the kids got hit there.
No, but those all contribute to the disruption of the traffic and the ability of the drivers to see and know where they belong and what speed they should be going at. We did not get into the details of those particular accidents, other than we'd like to be able to correct the overall contributing factors.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. We do want to thank the Road Commission for this involvement. I think it's important for us to continue to remind the community that as a school board, we're interested in public safety, but really public safety and the street and the safety of the street is within the jurisdiction of Meridian Township and the Ingham County Road Commission. And even the crossing guards are not school employees, but they are hired by Meridian Township, who really oversees the public safety issues. But we appreciate the Road Commission facilitating this, and we're pleased that they were able to use our facility.
It was a very well-done program. I know some of us thought ahead of time that it was just going to be kind of dull, but it really wasn't. They actively involved all the people that were there in outlining what the issues were and helping us solve the problem.
Thank you for sitting
And
there.
thanks for representing us, Jeff. Appreciate
Certainly.
it.
Anytime.
Anytime? You guys heard that, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, board reports. Finance and facilities, we have not met since our last meeting. Policy and personnel.
We have not met since our last meeting. I don't think anybody's been in town since our last meeting.
Items from the board? Scott.
Yeah, I'd like to mention that, as you are probably all aware, I returned from New Orleans. New Orleans with the school board convention, and just like to report some of the things that went on there. Not all of the things, but some of the things that went on. But anyway, we arrived down there, and the weather was very nice, just to let you know. And it's in the mid-70s most of the time and humid. But nevertheless, basically it got kicked off on Saturday with former Senator Bill Bradley speaking, who I found to be very interesting. A better speaker than I had anticipated, to be honest with you. I seen him on TV and thought he was not a very good speaker, but he surprised me and spoke mainly regarding semi-political, but nevertheless to be expected. And what his future holds for him, we don't know, but I have to believe he'll be back in the political fray before long. But nevertheless, rather interesting speech regarding good citizenship and being set by an example, setting his priorities by example, and clearly timely as far as the political scene these days to draw comparisons by setting things for example. But he was a very interesting speaker and did a very good job. That was on Saturday. On Sunday, Sunday was not as good. They seem to think at these conventions now that they want to do committees rather than have speakers in. They had, and I wasn't familiar with the gentleman, Claudio Sanchez, was a PBS education correspondent from California, and had 3 people as a committee up there. And I don't remember all of their names. It was Finn and Levy and McKinsey. 2 of them were from like consulting groups, the McKinsey consulting group, and I don't know these people, but maybe more the education community does for sure. But and then some guy named Levine that was from Columbia School of Teaching, or Columbia University School of Teaching. That wasn't very interesting at all for me. The one guy was much, the guy from the Hughes group was in favor of doing away with school boards and superintendents.
Chester Finn?
Finn, that was his name, yeah. He's in favor of doing away with school boards and superintendents and having the governor be directly responsible, or the individual schools being directly responsible to the governor. which I found to be a little bit out of sync with mainstream America, but I had a little trouble with that guy, and the other two were very, Levine was okay, I guess, but he was pretty mealy-mouthed, and the other one wasn't a very good speaker. So it wasn't a very, Sunday was sort of a wash on that one, but Monday, Riley came in and spoke his usual speech, the Secretary of Education. Again, very political. Democrats want, 5,000 new teachers and, I don't know, renovate the schools to whatever the dollar amount is, and of course the Republicans reject it. Can't figure out why. And politics at its worst in Washington continues on. But nevertheless, and he's very boring, very dry. Nothing's changed with that. It's about the third time I've seen him. And but anyway, I went to a clinic on character education, which I found to be very interesting, out of Missouri, Jefferson, just outside of St. Louis in Missouri. And the lady was very, very energetic, and was very interesting about that. And don't know. I think they had some real problems down there that they had to overcome to get to a level of which was a little more acceptable. And sounds like they've worked real hard on character education down there and put out a pretty good publication on it as they emphasize it throughout their school district or throughout their county, really their ISD type of thing. The last day was Henry Winkler, which sounded kind of strange to me because I didn't know that he was involved with kids as much as he is. But he's moved away from, obviously, his 11 years on TV as Fonzie. And lots of people running up to the stage getting photographs of Fonzie. Fonzie lives, apparently, because there are a lot of people there that obviously used to watch that show a lot. And, but he was very interesting as far as his commitment to his own family. Told very funny stories. It was very entertaining regarding his project now for kids. And I guess he's directing and producing a series of shows for directed mainly for kids. And very interesting to hear about his history as far as he was dyslexic and didn't get discovered about this. He thought he was very stupid, and for a long time took geometry, he said, 4 times, and couldn't figure this one out at all, and had much difficulty with the academic area. Was very funny about it, and but at any rate, he was very good, and with that, that was the last of the speakers that I went to. And but all in all, it was a very interesting conference. The locale is one in which my memories of youth are a lot better of New Orleans than mine are. I guess I'm getting old. Not the same. It's an interesting location in the country, but strictly, I think, or not strictly, but mainly for the youth and for the history. Very, very interesting site for history. But unfortunately, the sad note of the whole conference was I came home on Wednesday, and apparently the weather was very good because I made it. Tuesday, obviously, Mrs. Mateo and her husband had some problems. And I talked to Kathy Wednesday night, just to let you know, after I got back and got the news of Carlton's accident. And the thing that Kathy had indicated to me that Carlton repeatedly said was something that Henry Winkler, because we were sitting with the Mateos with the Winkler speech, and one of the things that Winkler went on and on about were negative thoughts, and one of his lines, or probably his most memorable line, certainly to Carlton, was that negative thoughts have no nutritional value. And he harped on that, and apparently Carlton remembered that after he was well enough to be lucid again after his accident, and kept telling Kathy regarding that Henry Winkler had reminded him that there's no point in worrying about the past or anything, that the negative thoughts regarding what had happened to him have no nutritional value for his future. So in spite of the accident and the problem there, I'm glad that Carlton was certainly well enough to remember the good line that Henry Winkler had. But all in all, it was a good week, or a good portion of the week, and enjoyed it and found it very interesting. And I think, as all good board members, we should all attend at least one of these, if not more, and at some period during your tenure on the board, however long those tenures may be for the many of us. But one last thing, I ran into I was waiting in a restaurant, I think this was Tuesday after the Winkler speech, it was later in the afternoon, and I ran into Tuskegee, Alabama board member who was waiting for a table. And she was very interesting. We got to talking. She had 4 children with her. And she asked to sit down at the table while they were waiting, and we said sure. And there was no problem when we started talking to the kids and asked why they were there, and found out they were there for the same reason we were, which was the school board convention. And so I started asking her questions and found out that things are different in the outside world for school board. I asked her how long she'd been on the board, and she said for 6 years. They have 6-year terms. I had how many people were on the board. She said 5. She was up for election this time, and her primary was coming up next month. And I said, primary? Oh, my goodness. I said, that sounds a little different, a little foreign. She says, yes, there's 3 of us running for the primary on the Democratic ticket. I said, you gotta be kidding me. You have to declare your party down there, and she has to get, although you're nonpartisan when you run, you have to get the backing of a party in order to run onto the board.
Still nonpartisan.
Very different, yeah. They have the election in June, they get sworn in November. So they have that basically several months, 4 to 5 months of lame duck board members, and which was very strange, I mean, very interesting, and indicated that the superintendent who was the interim superintendent who was not given the job as the permanent superintendent was her opponent in the board election. So things get really nasty down there by the sound of it. So it was a very interesting conversation I had for about a half an hour, 40 minutes with the lady from Tuskegee. And that's the kind of flavor, I think, that 2 things that come out at the school board convention. One, you're able to talk to other school board members and find out that sometimes our problems are really kind of different and small compared to some of the other ones. At least I think they're small. At least what I saw in this lady's hurdle that she has to overcome. And number 2, many of the speakers, and the thing that probably is best for me, normally compliment board members to a degree of which what we do and why we do what we do. A lot of people wonder why we do what we do, and it's nice to see and hear people on a national scene come in and compliment literally across the country. I mean, I'm always amazed when I've been to a couple of these that how many people show up. I believe there were 14,000 there, school board members there. Huge rooms, of course, that in these conferences, and that they come from all over, and they're all there being complimented by, basically complimented, except for this Finn guy, for their dedication to their communities, and it's sort of a shot in the arm, and it's good to hear, and sometimes as board members, we probably, you like to hear things like that, just like the National School Teacher of the Year was there and indicated that all board members should go up to their teachers in their districts and say, rather than when they do a good job, or a very good job, or when they're being brought to the board for awards, that they ought to take some of the other teachers and just say thank you to a teacher, because they probably don't hear it enough either. And I think that's good advice for parents and for parents across the district and for board members, that once in a while, when we do get to see more teachers than most because of our board positions, but we ought to be able to say to a teacher, for no good reason, other than the fact that it's they're doing what they do, just to say thank you. So with that, this conference ended on a sort of a sad note with Carleton, but in all, I know they had a worthwhile conference from talking to Kathy up until that point. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Bev?
Well, of course, I wanted to say something about the play Into the Woods. We went to it. It was wonderful, and I know I've told Eric this before, but I want to say it again this year, and it probably gets repetitive, but it's just so nice to see the different kinds of productions that we get here in Hazlet, and the quality. We had some people that we knew that attended that were active in the theater community in Lansing, and they were commenting on the subject matter and how well our kids did and how talented they were, and so that was wonderful. And I really appreciated that a lot, so I just wanted to mention that.
Jeff?
Yeah, I saw the play also.
At least 3 times.
3 times. They have about 20-some tickets. Had lots of family. I mean, had a sister-in-law come in from Toronto just to see the play. So,
She was glad she did.
I had a chance to see something else.